By the way, just before we have the awkward pause, it is you that starts this.
I know. I'm seeing it right there. I just looked down. I just looked down to see.
I was waiting for like the, oh, right, me.
No, I've learned to check. I'm Phil Rickaby, and I'm a writer and performer, and I am also an introvert.
I'm Jess Gorman, and I am a theater maker, and I am also an introvert. And this is the Introvert's Guide to...
On the Introvert's Guide to, we talk about the introvert life and how to live it to the fullest.
We'll choose a topic and discuss it, as well as try to find other helpful hints on social media and on the internet at large.
If you want to drop us a line, we would love to hear from you. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at introvertguide2, the number 2, and you can find the website at introvertguide2.com. If you want to send us a message, you can do that through the website, or you can email us at introvertsguidetostuff@gmail.com. And remember, we may use your questions or comments on an upcoming episode of The Introvert's Guide to.
And if you like the podcast and you listen on Apple Podcasts, please consider leaving a comment and a 5-star rating. Your comments and ratings help new people find the show. But even better, whether you listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, if you know someone that might like The Introvert's Guide to, tell them about it. Some of our favorite podcasts became our favorites because someone we know told us about them.
Jess, we got an email. And we love getting emails. Sometimes people just email us to tell us that they found the show, they like the show. Some people have questions that they want answered. And this is one of those emails.
Yes. And by the way, I do need to take a big deep breath in before we do this. It's been a while since we've revisited this email, and I just need a moment to breathe in and breathe out. Shall we all together? Ready? Just
breathe. There we go. All right.
Nice. Okay, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm. I'm in my 20s living in the crazy city of NYC. I recently started a new position at a gym, and after 3 days, my manager told upper management that I'm doing a good job, but I am quiet. Upper management pulled me to the side to tell me that being an introvert is not appropriate for my work environment, and he recommended that I create an alter ego like he has. He says that he is also an introvert. I am a very friendly person and lead with kindness with interacting with others, and this feedback really hurt my feelings. He told me that I need to be extroverted to get people to like me. It's interesting because my manager is pretty extroverted, but she is also rude as fuck to other employees and customers. It's interesting because my manager is pretty extroverted, but she is also rude as fuck to other employees and customers, but her behavior is accepted. I know you guys have discussed this issue on the podcast before, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this situation. I am sick of feeling like no one likes me for me and that I always have to pretend to be someone else. When I pretend to be someone else, I just feel even more awkward and feel really anxious. What would you do in this situation?
Not change a thing. You're doing a great job. Like, that's the one... I need to take a step back. Everyone take a step back. I'm going to just backpedal here. The word that bothered me the most, not appropriate.
Right. Yes.
That was awful. And rightfully so, your feelings would be hurt. So where do we begin, Phil?
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I had a similar reaction when I read this email to basically being an introvert is not appropriate. And that's not appropriate. Like that is the absolute wrong thing to say, because what they also said, you're doing a good job, right? If you're doing a good job, the fact that you are introverted means fuck all. Sorry, there's probably going to be a lot of cursing in this episode. It means fuck all because you're doing the job and you're doing it well. They just said that. Anything else is their personal opinion about the way that being an introvert is in that environment. And it has no bearing on whether or not you can do the work or not. So that's the angry portion of this. It's probably not the only angry portion, but
more to come.
More to come.
More to come.
I would probably, here's the thing. So after ranting a bit, I would find a good introverted friend and I would rant. And maybe we are your rant. Maybe you ranted to us in this email, and that's good. So now we're going to try to give you practical advice and not just the fucking burn it all down advice, which, is also tempting.
Solidarity. We're here in solidarity. We've got your back. We understand completely. I personally have never been in a situation where I have been told that my introversion is inappropriate, personally. I have been told that I'm a little quiet, but it's never been pointed out that it's a bad thing. However, with that said, what I find interesting is that I'm not sure who the listener is and what their position is at this gym, but if you're at a gym, isn't it better to have an introvert that can have the one-on-one session with anybody who's going to the gym? I mean, for training sessions or even for an orientation, isn't that a good thing to have, is to have somebody that can connect on that level? That's what would bother me. We
don't know what the position is. And there's several things that somebody might have, a position that you might have when you're at a gym, none of which really require you to be an extrovert. If you were a greeter, if you're the first person that people see, people come in, you say hi. That's easy. Don't have to be outgoing for that. But the thing that I'm going to be stuck on here is the fact that they said, you're doing a great job, but you're an introvert. And if you're doing a good job, then to me, that's what matters. The way that they are doesn't matter. If you are meeting the requirements of the job, then that's what you would do. And so the advice that I would probably end up doing is ignore the advice, do the job.
Yeah, because here's the thing. It's not a fireable thing to be fired for being an introvert. It's just not. You're not going to lose your job over it. I think if somebody is an introvert, they're still doing a good job, and you don't change, then something tells me that it's upper management that has some sort of personal issue with somebody who's not as talkative.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's not on you. That's for them to sort out why they would feel that way. I would be curious to know how many group, social outings that this company has. Is this something where everybody is chummy and they all get together after work, or they're just nervous about having a quiet person join their group? It sounds a little asshole-ish to me. See, there we go. Now I'm going to start swearing.
Do
I'm
it.
mad. I fucking will.
Fucking right.
Fucking will.
The thing is that in this particular situation, a lot of gyms, now I'm not a person who goes to gyms, so I might.
Stop.
I know. You don't get a body like this by going to a gym.
Girl.
Girl. Now, that said, a lot of gyms have long hours, so it's not like a 9 to 5 and then everybody goes out for drinks after. There's a lot of shifts that happen during the thing. So it might not be a socializing thing. And, even if it is, nobody can fault you for having a life outside of work. I am assuming that it has something to do with the way that you are in the gym, that you're not talking with all of the people constantly and being out there a little social butterfly. But again, they said you're doing a good job, right?
For us, Phil and I both, we've worked customer service. You're currently working a customer service position, right?
Yeah. But still, it's like call center, which is different from, say, retail or something like that, where you were when you're in front of the public. When I worked as an usher in one of Toronto's big theaters, that's like a front-facing job, and a lot of times you don't have to be an extrovert. You have to be polite, and you have to be able to carry on banal small talk conversations about the theater. Where it's helpful to have some facts. Oh, that stained glass over there, that was recovered from somebody in his backyard. All little things, because people are waiting to go into the theater. they're standing in front of the door and they're basically like in your face because they think you're the one that's going to let them in. And so you have these conversations, but you don't have to be particularly outgoing. You just have to be friendly. And it's as much as like, are you looking forward to the show tonight or something like that? But that's not extroversion. That's just talking to the person in front of you. You have no choice. Also, it's easy, I find, or it's easier to do that knowing that I have a particular job to do in this particular situation. I am not just a person who's going to be letting them in, maybe helping them to their seat. It's part of the job to have these conversations, because otherwise we're just standing there awkwardly, which is amusing in its own way, but not really effective. So it was sort of a role that I was playing, but it wasn't like faking, like being like friendly and outgoing. I was just the guy standing there who will answer your questions or might ask you how your evening is going. Aside from that, like if they're expecting you to be a social butterfly and walking around and talking to all the people, that shouldn't be necessary to your job. I'm sure they have plenty of people who do that.
And actually, you're touching on the point that I was going to get to is, as someone who worked in a managerial position with front-facing customer service, I can tell you right now that, yes, it is part of the job to interact. Absolutely. If I know that I've got maybe a team member that's a little bit quieter and I've got a team member that's going to be a little bubbly, variety is great, because not every single patron who walks through that door wants the same bubbly attitude from everybody. They need to have somebody that they feel comfortable gravitating toward. So maybe there's going to be a customer who doesn't want somebody who's quiet. They want the bubbly, outgoing little chipper butterfly, right? But then there's going to be somebody like me. I just want someone who's, on the same level as me, matching my energy. So I don't understand why management would want everybody on this just so energetic. It can make people nervous, I find. And I think it can make an atmosphere uneasy if everybody is the exact same level.
It's also, this is why a lot of introverts don't like going to the gym. Right, is because they walk in and somebody is like in their face with all this inane chatter or whatever, and you're just like, I just want to go on the treadmill, leave me alone. But I don't want to come here because you won't shut up when I'm on the tread. Like, this is the kind of thing that
no, seriously, people at the gym, they're worse than guys at the bus stop. Like, my headphones are in, leave me alone.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it comes down to that whole thing of do you want to create an atmosphere which is conducive to all people or just extroverted people, right? You want people coming to the gym, you want regulars, like Jess, like you said, there need to be people at different levels. Everybody can't be like out of 10. Because when I walk into a place, and I'm like, I wonder what this gym's going to be like. And somebody's like, hey, how you doing? What's your job? They're just talking at me. And it's like, they're like totally like, they're out of 10. I'm like, this is not the gym for me. I will not be coming back here.
That's how we lost you at a coffee shop, my man.
Exactly. Remember? I didn't go to a coffee.
We all remember.
I don't think everybody remembers, Jess. I think it really plays more on your mind than on other people. And it lives rent free. I will say that a few people commented, that's me. I do that too.
I think those are AI bots.
Those are not AI bots. Also, they're not me as using a sock puppet account. It's not. They're real people, Jess.
Sure. Anyway, but I digress. I'm curious to know what the conversations are going to be like with management going forward, because that can be uncomfortable if this is going to be something that's revisited.
If this is something that's coming up, if this is something that they are bringing up frequently, I would be asking the question. If it came up again, I would be like, okay, so you've said that I am doing a good job. You said I'm doing a good job. Could you please tell me why my being quiet is not appropriate? Please explain to me how it's not appropriate. Perhaps you could show me in the employee handbook where it says it's not appropriate. That's a very specific choice of words, which
Yes.
they probably shouldn't be using, because not appropriate is your
Sexual harassment's not appropriate.
Your shirt is see-through. Your pants are ripped, like right in the ass or whatever. Like this is not appropriate. Your clothing is too revealing, or you were hitting on too many of the customers, like, or any of the customers. Like, that's not appropriate. You're quiet. Please tell me how that is not. Can you please explain to me how it is not specifically appropriate?
Yeah, being quiet should just be a neutral observation.
Yeah.
It should never be this put into a negative sense. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, which any introvert, quiet person would feel uncomfortable and hurt by those words, don't be afraid to bring it up.
Yeah.
I know it's so much easier said than done, because a lot of us are not comfortable. We feel like we're causing an issue. We're rocking the boat. But when you keep telling yourself what's the worst that's going to happen, you're not going to get fired for this. That is not a fireable offense. I would encourage to really pull that up. If you get pulled aside, don't be rude.
Yeah.
I can't imagine this listener is going to be rude. They don't sound like a rude person, but you're well within your right to say, could you please explain the word appropriate in this context with my introversion?
Because if they're going to bring it up, I think that's where you need to. That's where you should focus. Is they've said you're doing a good job, but being quiet is not appropriate. Please explain how it is inappropriate.
I'm also curious about this manager, this rude manager. Quite curious about this one. Is this is the one that said that she is also an introvert?
Yes.
So sounds like somebody's just being a little complicit.
If they are actually an introvert, like, I don't know. The whole thing where they've created an alter ego for themselves, and I guess in their mind, being an extrovert is an asshole, because seeing as that seems to be how they are. They are rude as fuck to other employees and customers. Maybe it sounds like that's inappropriate. Like, they are being rude in the guise of being outgoing. Mm-hmm. And somehow that is accepted. I'd be really curious about the why of all of this. Like, what do they see it as? What is the problem? What do they see as inappropriate? What do they see it as? Why do they see it as a problem? Especially if the work's being done well, and people, you are friendly. Nobody needs more than friendly, to be honest.
No, not really. Not at a gym. I mean, my thing is I am not totally convinced that this person is an introvert. Mm-hmm. And it's not because you can't be, because introverts are all nice people, but it's just it sounds like you're saying you're an introvert, so that way you can do the whole, I'm an introvert, so you should be able to do it too. And that's well and fine, but creating an alter ego, there's other ways of going about these things that are just more productive. For instance, just reserving all of your social energy for the customers. That's it. Your colleagues, as long as you're cordial and polite, that's it. That's all they're owed. Yeah.
It certainly is a question. Like, is this about the way that you interact with other employees, or is this about the way that you interact with the customers? If it's about other employees, well, those people don't matter. The customers matter, right? Mm-hmm.
If it was to do with the other employees, and they're just framing this as, we expect this from our employees for everybody to be at it, an energy level out of 10 here, I would question what kind of facility this is. That the opinion of these people is being taken into account, to use words like inappropriate.
Yeah.
There's a lot of politics there.
Yeah.
A lot of politics and gossip.
I'm sure there is a lot of politics and gossip. And I'm sure this person is like just wanting to be as far away from it as possible.
I just want a whole bunch of tea spilled right now. Like, I just want to sit down and be like, you tell me everything. What is going on? Who said what?
But it can be really, if that's the case, it can be really uncomfortable, both as the new person, as the new introverted person who's like there and you're just trying to get the work done. You're still kind of learning the ropes. You're just trying to do the job. They pulled you aside after 3 days and said, you're quiet and that's inappropriate. Like, that's 3 days. You barely have time to learn the ropes. So, I imagine that maybe there might be something with the office, the gym politics, but man, I don't know. I really think that the main things that you have in your arsenal for dealing with this. And you know, I don't know how things are going, because by the time this airs, it will be a few weeks between you're sending the email and us responding to it. I just think that the weapons that you have to use are that you're doing a good job. Ignore the be put on a persona and be extroverted as much as you can. And if it comes up again and they use that term, it's not appropriate for you to be quiet. Get the definition. Please define how it's not appropriate. Please define where it says that, where it's defined in our employee handbook in inappropriateness. Please define that for me, because I don't see how it's inappropriate.
I thought maybe it would be fun to look at some pros and cons of extroversion in the workplace.
Oh my God. Okay. I love this, because most of the articles that we would find on this topic are the pros and cons of the introvert in the office, and how the introvert is a strange creature, and how do you deal with the introvert in your office. I love this framing, so I'm 100% into this.
Absolutely. It was a big list, and it's on journeyfront.com. It's a blog website, but I really, really, really enjoyed this blogger's, like, just the long list of each. The only list I'm going to leave out is the cons for introversion. Oh. And I think that's because we hear enough of how we're just not appropriate. We're not going to do that to ourselves. That list doesn't exist in this episode, but we are going to go through the pros of introversion. So extroversion pros. Again, there is a lot in this list. A lot. But one of them is works well in group settings. And we got to admit, the extroverts, they got that over us. School assignments, big groups, not here for it. Invites others to participate who might be less inclined. We've talked about this with parties. We always find our little extroversion or extroverted buddy that we just cling to. Usually very determined, likely to take charge, confident, we can agree. Highly self-reliant tendencies, likely to become a leader. Comfortable forming friendships with large number of people. This is great stuff. This is great. Here are some cons, though, that I thought we could discuss and see if they're appropriate. I'm feeling facetious right now. Likely to stand in the spotlight more rather than giving it to others. How do we feel about that one?
I'm iffy on that one. And the reason I'm iffy on that one is because, again, I think that might be assuming that an introvert is shy.
Nice.
I also, for some of the pros, I also sort of have like more likely to be a leader. I know lots of introverted leaders. They just lead in a particularly different way. But there's lots of leaders who are introverted. You don't have to be an extrovert for that. Again, we're not necessarily shy.
That's right. Another con is a desire to spend time in the company of others that may affect personal work.
Yeah.
I can see that one. There's definitely a lot of distractions that can happen.
Even working in an office, you could always, like, I remember when we were in the office years, in the before times when we had an office, there would always be a couple, and almost always some of the salespeople, because they tended to be the more extroverted. A lot of like the social, like, just walking around. Hey, how you doing? What's it like? The small talk and the like walking around and having the conversations, and that's fine. But again, this is the difference. I show up at the office to work. That's what I'm here for. I have friends.
That's literally it, man.
I have friends outside of work. I wasn't here for. It sounds like I'm like on the Amazing Race or something. I'm like, I'm not here to make friends.
I'm just here to do it.
I'm just here to do it. I'm just here to do it. But I always keep a professional distance at work because I have friends. I don't need to take my work home with me or with my friends. Like, let's not have a situation where I hang out with my friends and talk about work.
No, totally. Honestly, like there's times where I ask a question at work and 45 minutes later, I'm still trying to get the question answered.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. So we can all agree on that one.
Yes.
Which leads me to, they may struggle to complete projects because of this. Now, someone here with ADHD, I'm going to say that this is just a roundabout for a lot of folks. Okay? Deadlines, what are those?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I guess. I haven't necessarily noticed the extroverted people that I've worked with having trouble completing projects. Somehow they managed to get that done. Maybe they put in extra hours or whatever, but I haven't necessarily noticed that. But I could see that being a problem. I think totally. It might be more of a problem in sort of like when you're clocking in and clocking out kind of situation, where you have to like you work. You clock in at 9 and you leave at 5 and you're paid by the hour sort of thing. But in situations where you're like sort of like paid on a salaried basis or something like that, you're not clocking in, clocking out. People just put in extra hours when they need to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? They can sometimes make others uncomfortable.
Yep.
I think so. And it's not because their behavior is inappropriate, but it could be that someone like me, I'm not shy, but I would certainly feel awkward trying to tell somebody, hey, listen, I got to get back to work though. Like that can be uncomfortable in a situation. I think this ranges certainly with this context.
Yeah, that's certainly a difficult one. Also, let's face it, if you're in an office that mixes as most places do, introverts, extroverts, the extroverts, they're doing their small talk thing, and we're just deer caught in the headlights. I have been like in an office situation, a deer caught in the headlights as somebody is talking, and I just don't know how to extricate myself from this situation until suddenly it gets too long and to be like, oh shit, I have a meeting or something like that. Some kind of external thing that allows me to get out of this situation. But I've definitely been trapped in that situation and not feeling very, very good about it.
But hey, that's appropriate. And the last but not least, they can be too intense or too lively.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I find the word intense an interesting word because I hear people say that about introverts all the time, that introverts are intense. Mm-hmm. And that may be because we are quiet, or when we speak, we're speaking about things that we are passionate about, or we're speaking just to get to the point without like circling around it for a half hour before we get to the point or whatever it is. I've heard introverts referred to as intense, but I suppose that extroverts may be as well. I don't know, but what's your experience with that?
I find that honestly, introverts can be just as intense and lively. I get confused as an extrovert. I can be lively. I can be very bubbly, very chipper. I've never been told I'm too intense or too lively. However, I have been told I am incredibly passionate when I feel it in the moment. Right. So if I'm talking about something that is really like just important to me, or I feel something so intensely, that's when maybe I'm like, whoa, she's really passionate. Right. It's never been used in a negative for me.
I think, similarly, a lot of people, when they find out that I am an introvert, they are surprised because I'm I'm always willing to talk in public. I'm always willing to present. I'm always willing to be front and center at work and all that sort of thing. And I am not shy. Again, but I think that comes down to that confusion where people often think that because you're an introvert, you are shy, which is the thing that has annoyed us since the start of this podcast.
Since the dawn of time. I want to really say that in the David Attenborough voice.
Please.
Since the dawn of time.
Nice.
I'm getting so much better at that. My point that I really want to drive home, and I'm going to get to the introversion pro list, but the point that I really want to drive home with these pros and cons of the extrovert and the introvert in the workspace is that they're bullshit. They are so interchangeable. Right. They honestly, I thought about it and I'm like, some of these can go back or forth. Humans are complex. There is a lot of nuance to us. We are not binary creatures. And I think I'm starting to resent the whole why you want an introvert on your team and why introverts make great leaders. It's anybody can do these things. I value who I am as an introvert. I love what I bring to the table in my workspace, but I am never going to allow somebody to make me feel like my introversion is a weakness or it can be a strength. I'm here to do a performance. I'm here to do a job, and I'm going to do it well. That's what you hired me for.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about that, what you're saying there, is those things, as we've sort of like torn down all of those pros and cons about like that could be me as well. It comes down to the fact that almost no one is a pure introvert or extrovert. It is a spectrum, and many more people sit in the middle in that ambivert area. We usually lean a little bit towards one or the other, but most people sort of sit in that middle section, leaning a little bit one way or the other, which means that all of those distinctions, it's in all of us anyway, right? So you're absolutely right. Those are all bullshit things right there that have no meaning because they apply to both.
Yes. And dear listener, this is our performance review for you. Here's the introversion pro list. You do not have difficulty working in groups. You actually are thriving in connecting with people. You can form harsh negative opinion on others and very critical. However, you can be insightful toward their character as well. And I think that you can create some great judgment from that. People are going to assume that you're not a risk taker, but I think you're actually going to take a step back and make a risk assessment. And I think you're going to actually dive into the things that you care about the most. Sometimes you're going to prefer privacy in working in groups, but that just means you're going to be better working one-on-one and building people up, and I think you're going to make a great team player. You value making your own decision outside of others' opinions, but that's because you're going to be more self-assured than others, and I think you're going to make some great decisions that may not seem like a great idea or very popular or people are unsure of it. But you know what? You've thought about it because that's what we do. We think about things, we take the risk assessment, and we take a dive into something. We take a leap of faith. So listener, you're doing great. You're doing a good job.
You can actually isolate that portion of the conversation, and you can like play that back to yourself should you need to. One thing that I would add to that is a lot of times, most people are probably coming to that gym, and it may be that dealing with the overly extroverted staff may be their least favorite part of coming to the gym. And what you would probably find is that if for some reason you did leave, the majority of people would say, that's really too bad. I really like that person. I really like how interacting with them. And that's the thing. Is sure, a lot of the people may have it in their heads that what they need to be is overly extrovert and they need to be like gung-ho and like in everybody's face and constantly talking. But most people are probably really annoyed by that and really appreciate your more genuine friendliness and the way that you interact with them because you're not all over them or in their face, or like being a 10 when what you really need when you show up at the gym at like 6 a.m. or whatever time you get to the gym is something a little more low key, which is what you're probably providing.
I hope that we hear from this listener again, and I hope we get an update.
Yeah, I would really like an update.
Because,
I'd really like an update.
We would love to hear from you.
Absolutely. And just to remind everybody who may be listening, if you have a question, you can email us. We'll be happy to. We love getting these emails, and we love answering questions. So feel free to send in your emails and questions. So here's my question now, Jess.
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
Did we learn anything today?
You know, I think I actually taught myself a lesson when I was looking through articles about introverts, extroverts in the workplace and what they each bring to the table. And honestly, yeah, there is no extrovert, introvert in the workplace anymore. I think as we've gone through this show and all of the episodes, and we've respected and appreciated who people are on an individual level. We don't just see them as introvert, extrovert, and we do see that spectrum and how we all connect closely toward the middle. I think I've learned to really appreciate team members and their nuance that they bring, and just this energy and how we need a dynamic workspace.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a workspace that only has one type of person is a boring place to be. Mm-hmm. And also, I think it's important to just always reiterate and remind ourselves that this is not a binary. There is no one way to be an introvert, one way to be an extrovert. There's all of this space in between, all of this spectrum in there where each of us sits and may sit from day to day in different times of the day. There's no one way. As we've said many times, there are many flavors of introvert. There's many flavors of extrovert. It's all this great jumble of who you are and how you prefer to socialize and all the things that make you you. And those are amazing things. You're an amazing person because of the way that you socialize in the world and what you bring. Remember, for a long time, we've all been told that introversion is a problem, whether it's something to be fixed, but it is not. It's a really great trait to have because you can listen in a way that other people can't. So many things are amazing about it. Just embrace who you are, and within the context of this particular email and this situation, you can only be who you are. You can only do that. Even if you built an alter ego, you would be exhausted at the end of the day. You would hate yourself. Just be who you are, do your job really well, and if you get pushback, question why. Mm-hmm. And I think that if I learned anything after I realized that's what the question I was trying to answer there is what I learned. It just I think it's really more of a reminder of, yes, we talk about being introverts here. We talk about being introverted, but none of us is 100%. There is no such thing as a 100% introvert. Everybody has a little bit of the other in them. And I think it's important to remember that. Listeners, as always, I just wanted to remind you that we produce this podcast. We give it to you every 2 weeks for free. We don't have advertisements. We don't have advertising. We don't have sponsorships. We just give you this show because we love doing it. That said, it is important to note that doing a show like this does cost money. There are fees for having a website, hosting the audio files, for editing software, and all those sorts of things, which all add up. And so if you find value in this show, please consider supporting it. You can make a donation either on a one-time basis or on a monthly basis. There's a link to do that in the show notes. And you can give whatever amount you would want to. If just 4 people gave us $5 a month, we would pay for the hosting of this show. And if enough people donated, Jess and I could actually get paid to do this, which we don't do. And that would be kind of all right. Even if you can't afford to donate to the show, the most important thing is that you're here and that you are on this journey of introversion with us, and you're listening, and we are so happy that you're here.